Yeah,
Any
I think
insight
the
on
last.
what the new administration is going to do with mail-in voting?
Yes, I saw that today, Stephen.
What you got?
Y-
No, I
Yes,
didn't see anything.
I
I just
did. Let's see if I can pull it up. I
Hey,
don't
you
know.
guys should hold this good stuff for when we admit everybody.
Let's do it. Let's do
I,
it.
I think it was
So,
on
Dr.
Telegram.
Frank, I'm assuming you're all set up with kind of what we're going to do today. I'm going to do some intros to a few people, and then we're just going to go to you and let you take the stage, and then we'll go to like I don't know, probably about like maybe 10 after 6, and then do some Q&A, or whenever you feel like you want to do Q&A, man, you just do it.
I didn't prepare a presentation specifically for you. I thought this was a group call. But I can give you a presentation. Are you kidding? I can talk till the cows come home. You
Yeah,
know
that's what I
that.
figured. You don't need to prep for this. You're prepped, man. But
It's
I'm thinking what would be really cool is to just like get people fired up, like talk about anomalies you found in Oregon, Oregon, Washington, California. There's people from Oregon, Washington, California here. We really want to make this a West Coast movement and take respective actions, up and down the West Coast so that we put pressure on this government, this one party government.
right.
And so anything you can bring to help people understand. One of the things I'll probably reiterate our strategy, because we're being attacked by our own party here to stop doing this, and it's absurd. But I'll talk to that a little bit when we bring people on. So if you guys are ready,
Sure, that's important.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll be while you're doing that, I'll be clicking and bringing up a few slides now that I know what you want me to do.
Yeah. Let me give you the.
I'll be able to share my screen, right?
Yeah. Let me give you that ability. Actually, what I might do is make you a co-host, because that way you can just share screen.
Yeah, I'm going to need to be able to share screens. Yeah.
Michaela, are you still co-host if I make him co-host?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything change. No, I can still admit people.
Yeah, you're set. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just posting on X to get more people in here.
Good. I did too. They're already trolling me. Well, if you quit bashing the ORP, you might have some people in there. I'm like, I'm the one bashing the ORP.
I'm the one bashing the RP. Have you seen my posts lately?
Let's go. We're all in good company.
Ben, I'm sorry. I hit the ORP all the time. They drive me nuts. So
They're not your friend. The establishment is not on your side. In fact, now that you say that, I'm gonna have a graph ready for you.
Let's go. I love it. Yeah.
I'm gonna get something ready for you here.
That's great.
Okay,
I love it.
Let's bring him in, Ben, at 6 minutes past.
Bringing them in. Here we go. Recording's
Okay.
on. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. Woo.
You lost me. I don't see any of you now. I just see Zoom, the word Zoom on my screen.
That's because the tsunami they talked about earlier in Southern Oregon just hit this Zoom call.
Actually, I'm from Southern California. I talked to my friends in Long Beach today. They didn't even know there was an earthquake.
It's only a 7.0.
I know. They didn't, not only.
Yeah.
They didn't even know it. They said, "Really? Are you sure, Janet?" I said, "Yes, it's all over our news."
Oh, yeah, I didn't feel it either.
Love it.
Where are you?
Where? I didn't
It
even
was
know
at-
the earthquake.
It was actually in Northern California. My friends in Long Beach, California didn't feel it.
No, neither did I. I'm in Southern California, so
Okay.
it's just another day in California.
Just another day, a little shaky shake.
Shaky
All right,
grew
let's
up-
talk about another earthquake.
I grew up on the north coast of California. I lived on the San Andreas Fault. To me, ho hum. I could watch him coming to me, man. It was amazing.
Yeah, just the earth being like whoosh.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
the ground liquefies, and you can see the earthquake actually coming in the Petaluma Valley where I grew up. The adobe soil, it's just like turns into a wave.
Wow.
That's something that's we don't get in Oregon too much, that's for sure. Every once in a while, every few 100,000 years. One's a little overdue. And that's Dr. Frank, everybody. We got Dr. Frank on the call today. I'm so excited to hear from him. We're going to get to him as soon as we can get to him. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We've made a lot of progress. We've had our petition, our prospective petition approved by the Secretary of State. It is ready for circulation. I'm going to put the link to download the signature sheets in the chat here in a little bit. So keep an eye on that chat. It's ready. I'm very excited about it. I've got some people to introduce to you. I don't know if Beth Kaiser is here. Beth, are you here? Is Beth here?
Yes, I am.
Beth,
Yeah.
hey. So Beth's out of Yamhill County. She's a leader at the Newburgh Strong. These are groups of activists that are strong. I mean, these guys do work. They put in effort. They fight, and that's what we're looking for. But Beth has come on to be our volunteer coordinator, so we're going to be able to start getting to the people who filled out the volunteer forms. We've had 170 people volunteer for this movement, for this petition, to get signatures and be a part of this, and it's amazing. I'm just blown away by it. You guys are all a blessing to every Oregonian, whether they know it or not, because you guys are the people who do the work, that show up. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what we got to do. We got to participate in our process, in our political process, so that we can have some ownership and some equity, as they say, in it, but real equity. Like when you pay for your own stuff, it becomes yours. So we pay for it when we do the work, and then we own it. That's how it works, right? So we're here to do that, and I'm pumped. So Beth, thank you very much. We're going to be getting Beth connected with all the volunteers that have filled out the forms, so that we can start to get people activated and all that. Jason Beebe, where are you, Jason? You here somewhere? There you are.
I'm here.
Jason Beebe's the third-term mayor of Prineville in Eastern Oregon. He's coming on to be our Eastern Oregon Director of Operations. So he's going to help build up the big ground game in Eastern Oregon, so that we can hit that whole side of that state, and maybe before they become Idaho, they can sign this petition. So Jason, welcome aboard. I'm so glad to have you. He's in Jersey right now for work, so he's tired, but it's late for him right now, which I get. But Jason, really glad to have you on. Is Rick Riley here? Rick might be here, but Rick signed up to be an ambassador. He's the chair of the Clackamas County Republicans. I don't know if you saw the latest podcast with Brian Iverson and Reagan Knope talking about how crappy the Clackamas County Republican Party is. But let me tell you, those crappy Clackamas County Republican Party people canvassed 14,000 homes in my last race. And so they're not crappy. They put in the work. They work hard. Maybe that's why Brian Iverson doesn't like him so much. And they mentioned Klamath County too. If there's anybody from the Klamath County Party, they got it too on the podcast. I figured, well, those are the ones that I need to reach out to right now, because they're probably the ones putting in the work, doing the real stuff. So there's been some interesting stuff happening between the Oregon Republican Party and our movement, ENDVBM movement. There's a lot of, we got trolled the other night by the ORP. They were talking about, well, this isn't a really good idea. We got to, this is bad. We need to do our thing. And so I think they're going to come with a second petition, just like what happened to Restore Oregon Now, when they did 2 different recalls for Kate Brown. And that is exactly what made that whole effort fail. And so I think we need to be prepared for that. But like I said, in response to them last night, the ORP at the state level is kind of a social club. It's not an effective organization to make change. We all know that. That's blatantly obvious. And it's pretty much controlled and run by sort of our weak Republican caucuses in the legislature, in the state and the Senate, and the House and the Senate. That's the social club aspect of it. And if we want change in this state, we have to do it ourselves. We have to make it happen ourselves. No one's coming to save us. Okay, this is Oregon. It's unique. We've got Washington. We've got Californians here. We really need to build and make this a West Coast effort. But right now, our first launch is this initiative petition to modify the amendment of the state constitution. So one of the things that I think is really key to remember while we're here is that you can't vote your way out of a rigged election system, okay? You can't do it. So anytime somebody says it's not going to work because it's not going to win the election, of course not. We're voting ourselves in a rigged election. We're not going to vote ourselves out. The goal and the victory here is about getting it on the ballot and forcing this one-party government to defend the fact that they cannot prove that our elections are secure. They can't. And if it's on the ballot, that's going to be the question that in the arena that I'm going to be asking this government. Prove to me right now, prove to all of us right now that our elections are secure. And they won't, because they can't.
Go ahead.
This is the winning strategy. I'm telling you right now, it is a political strategy. We have to do it. But in order for this to work, we got to get it on the ballot. That means we got to get out there and we got to work hard. But that's the strategy, because there's no better strategy. Because let me tell you something. Rigged elections is what the Second Amendment was made for, okay? And before we get to that point, it is incredibly important that we educate Oregon voters about the facts, and our West Coast voters, Washington and California. We have to educate people about the facts of our election systems here. And when they learn, they will not like vote by mail. Once you understand how our election systems are stolen, our races are stolen, our elections are stolen, then you will not like vote by mail, because it is the gateway to all massive election fraud. So we have to get this thing on the ballot. And if we do, this is going to be a huge victory, because we're going to force this conversation not only on the West Coast, but we're also going to be able to participate and support our Congress and the Trump administration while they're having the national debate around vote by mail. They need us on the West Coast. They need to see, the whole country needs to see that there is an army on the West Coast who is ready to go to work and ready to make change and ready to support our new federal government to end vote by mail for good and have security in our elections. So that all said, that's the strategy. That's what we're doing. That's why Stephen Jonkis, who's 10 times smarter than I am, is on board with this as another co-petitioner, and why Dr. Frank is here today to help get us inspired around the terrible things that are happening on the West Coast with our election systems. And without further ado, Mr. Dr. Frank, thank you for being here today.
All right. I was listening to you, and can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear.
I was listening to you talk, and you sound an awful lot like my presentation on Monday night. Were you there for that, for the national presentation? About 500 people on Monday night, national call. Averaged about 350 people in real time, but people come and go, but about 500 people total. And I just want to reiterate something. I'm sorry I was fiddling around. What's going on here? Hang in there. This meeting is being recorded. I'm getting bombarded with messages here, so hang on.
Oh, sorry about that. And I missed that call. I didn't know that call occurred, so I'd love to get access to that so I can participate.
Okay, and I'm about to show you that. Give me 2 seconds here. I need to change the way I'm running this talk because I can't see. Hang on, I'm almost there.
So Ben, I'll get that video to you.
Wonderful, thank you.
I've uploaded the links for it. All right, I got to start this presentation first. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I wasn't quite set up the way I thought. I thought this was just a group call. Didn't realize I was making a presentation. So I didn't set up for a presentation, but I have a presentation. I just have to set it up. Now, hang on there. Okay, and I am going to start this right here. Okay, I'm almost ready. Thank you for being patient with me.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I also want to review this strategy that you're talking about. I appreciate it so much. All right, there should be a nice black screen for you to look at.
Couple geometric shapes, but yeah, nice black screen.
Okay, good. I started the wrong presentation. Hold on. Sorry about that. Murphy's Law. Okay, here we go. This is the one here. F5 starts it. Okay. And then I have to share the new presentation. Here we go. All right, now it should be there, and it should be a nice black screen for you. But I wanted to reiterate what you said to start things out. Jefferson said, when governments fear the people, there's liberty. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. The strongest reason, this is Jefferson, the strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny and government. That's what you just said. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. And we are in that mode now. We are in a tyrannical situation across the country. And so you better have your guns ready. You better have your ammo. We might need them. I'm hoping we don't. I'm hoping what you guys are doing now is the right thing, but that is the situation we are in as a country. We're under tyranny. So we have to deal with that. Now, as far as your Republican Party is concerned, let's just have a look at their performance, shall we? Okay. Now, just so you know what this graph is a summary of all of the votes of your legislative session. And what it is across the bottom, the x-axis is how consistently do the legislators vote consistently with the Constitution. If they vote all the time consistently, they get a 100% rating. If they never vote consistently with the Constitution, they get a 0% rating. And what they've done is they've tabulated the John Birch Society, it's on the freedomindex.org. They've tabulated all the votes of your legislators, okay, for your House and your Senate, okay? And you've got 60 in the House, 28 in the Senate that I've got scores here for, all right? Now, the y-axis just shows you the number of senators, or House people. So it doesn't really have a meaning. It's just that I've sorted them in terms of their performance. So you can see that about 40 or 45 or so, you can see the totals here. So the y-axis doesn't have any score meaning. It just helps you add it up. But the score is on the x-axis. So I just want you to see that you got 1, 2, 3, 4 of your legislators that vote consistently. They would get a 90%. So it's an A minus. They get to vote. They vote A minus consistent with the Constitution. And look, and these red dots are all your Republicans. And these blue dots are your Democrats. You even got a Republican that's voting down here with your Democrats. Okay. So I say, I don't even need to know the people in your GOP. I just look at this graph and I say, your GOP sucks. Okay. Because they are producing candidates that do not vote consistently with the Constitution. Okay. So you have a huge problem, a huge problem. You're not the only state like this, but it's one of the reasons why I tell people you're not going to fix this problem legislatively. You can go knock on these people. I hear it all the time. Call your legislator, tell them this or that. The other thing, call these people. These people are going to do something for you. I don't think so. Okay. Now, along the same lines, and I so appreciated your comment. Let me just bring this up. I didn't introduce myself. I'm assuming everybody knows me. Maybe I shouldn't have done that.
They know you.
Okay. I just assuming, but I really like this. It happened in April. Patrick Byrne and I spoke at an event in Ohio, and I spoke for about an hour and a half. Then he spoke, and he came up to the microphone and he says, Dr. Frank reverse engineered the algorithms they're using to cheat our elections. So what I'm a data guy. I started with the data and I worked my way back to how they were stealing our elections. And so I really like that description. That's who I am. That's what I do. I spent most of my day today looking at data. Okay. Here's what he said. He says there are a dozen tools in their cheating toolbox, and they use whichever combination of tools works best in each situation. And I got to tell you, the worst, easiest, best cheating tool there is mail-in ballots. Okay. I mean, that just basically ruins any election to have mail-in ballots, especially in your state, which I was telling everybody for the last several years, you have some of the dirtiest voter rolls in the country. Finally, Judicial Watch got around to suing you. Okay. So now you have some of the dirtiest voter rolls and you're going to mail ballots to all those people. Basically, what you're doing is littering the pavement with a bunch of ballots that are not really going to real people. And anybody who wants to cheat, all I have to do is scrape up a few of those and turn them in. So yes, this is a huge problem, but it's only one of 12 problems. And I want you to realize something here, and this is super important. I know it's easy to focus on one thing because it's like, but that's only one of 12 problems, right? That's the whole point that Patrick Byrne said. He says there are a dozen ways to cheat. Well, that's just one. So if you spend all of your effort, let's say that you have a magnificent effort and you get rid of mail-in voting. Well, guess what? Most states don't have mail-in voting, and boy, is there rampant cheating there. So you didn't really fix the problem, did you? Okay, you might get rid of one tumor, but you've got 11 more to go. Okay, and so putting all of your eggs in one basket, especially on just one issue, I think is a failed strategy. I think you might win, but what do you get for it? Well, what you get for it is a bunch of people have been running on hamster wheels and are exhausted. And then you don't have secure elections anyway. So I love what you said, Ben, earlier. You said, look, you can't fix broken elections with broken elections. You're not going to be able to win to fix your elections using an election. It ain't going to work. And I love what Einstein says. He says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So definitely, I'm not going to be encouraging you guys to get on the bandwagon for this issue and pull out all the stops and win on this issue. That's not going to be what I would recommend to you. In fact, I would discourage you from that sort of strategy, because if that's like saying we're going to go to war and everybody's a sniper. Well, okay, you're going to lose. When you go to war, you got to have multiple types of infrastructure, multiple types of skills, infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. So that's a super important thing. So if you're out there thinking that this is all you got to do to fix Oregon's elections, I want to change the way you think. I want to change your mindset. You got to change. You got to realize we're at war, and it isn't just your state, okay? We are at war in every state. And I'll show you some of the Oregon results from the recent election. I think you guys will be pleased when you see it. But anyway, you got to think about it, that we are at war. And when you're in a war, you don't win a war by having everybody picking up their rifles and running to shoot at the enemy. That's how you lose a war. The way you win a war is you form a war council. You form a team. And then that team starts to strategize. And Ben, I was listening to you talk. I was actually getting fired up because you were talking about strategy. You don't win wars. You don't win games of chess without strategy. You have to have strategy. And what you do has to play into the larger strategy, or you lose the war. You might win a battle, but you got to play into the whole strategy. So I love it that you are talking strategy, and I love it that you have people from all over your state. It's super important.
And I knew you were a chess player. I knew it.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a very good chess player, but I have played pretty much all my life. My son's a champ.
I'm with you there.
When it's to me, I'll come home from work and he'll say, "Hey, Dad, can we play chess?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is too much work." This is what I do all day long is strategy, and to play chess at night is more strategy. When do I get a rest? But, even when he was 4 years old in kindergarten, he came home from school and said, "Dad, please teach me chess." So I used to play him with pawns only until he could win. And then I would add rooks, and then he would win. And then I would add bishops, and we handicapped. And by the time he was late in elementary school, he was pretty much champion in the region. He was doing really well.
That's cool.
But the whole point, I got distracted. But the whole point is, you got to think strategically. If you're not thinking strategically, you're going to lose. Now, this is a statewide petition you're putting together, right?
That's correct.
So a statewide petition, I'm not opposed. But even if you win the statewide race, you lose unless you have the community supporting it, the counties and the communities. So it'd be sort of like we're going to send an advanced guerrilla team, and we land in Germany and they rush in and they attack German headquarters. Okay, they might win the battle, but you're going to lose the war because you don't have the support. So you got to land on Normandy first. You got to get a beachhead. You have to get your infrastructure together. So as you're fighting this statewide battle, which I like the idea of this petition. I think it's a good idea, but I think it needs to be put in the context of your overall strategy. You need to use this to build the community efforts. Because even when you win, you still need the community efforts afterwards. You can't just win the battle and then collapse. You got to have the infrastructure to support your victories when you get your victories. So anyway, that's where I'm emphasizing, and I just really enjoyed hearing you talk. You got me all fired up.
I love it. I agree. We got to build an army. That's what we have to do up and down the West Coast, and it's not just for this, but it's for the future. So I love that, Dr. Frank. Thank you.
That's right. And it's a lot of times people focus so much just on their one issue, like you're focusing on the petition, that they forget that that's only one battle in the war. And you win that battle, you put all your effort into that battle, and then you're easily defeated after that because you don't have the infrastructure to sustain the victory that you've had. So that's super important. Now, to me, I think that's a great idea. I think the way to fight it from the county level, so in other words, you could use the petition for your state to kind of excite everybody and get everybody involved. I like that idea. But how can you get someone at the county level to get excited about a statewide issue? That's a problem. The way to get them excited, I think, is to add a second issue to your messaging, and that's the voter rolls. And let me just show you what I mean by the voter rolls.
Yep.
This is your voter rolls. You've got multiple things going for you already. You've got a lawsuit from Judicial Watch. You've got my data that show that your voter rolls are manipulated, and I can show you those graphs. I've shown those graphs all over the place, but I can show them again tonight if you want me to. I can show you that your county rolls are being state manipulated, not locally manipulated. And I'll just use this graph. I prepared this back in October just to kind of show you the kind of things you can use to generate local interest. If you go to your local clerk and say, gee, in the last 3 years, how many people have you added and removed from your voter rolls? They'll typically give you a number and it's under 10%. Well, guess what? I've done it for your entire state, county by county, and I can show you how many people are being added and removed from your voter rolls. What if I told you, and here's just an example. This is a graph I made a while back when I was in Deschutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7 counties. Not a single one of these counties had less than 30% of the people in their voter rolls change over a 3-year period of time. 30%. I mean, in other words, that's called voter roll churn. If you have 100 people in your county, let's say, and 10 move out and 10 move in, 10 changes in, 10 changes out. That's 20 changes out of 100. That's called a 20% churn. To realize that your voter rolls have changed 20% in only 3 years, most people would balk at that. Well, guess what? Here's Yamhill. They're almost 45% change in their voter rolls after 3 years. Okay, or Deschutes over 40, Coos over 40, Clatsop over 40, Clackamas right around 40. Okay, so in other words, the voter rolls are being churned and your local clerk is not doing that. Follow me? This is not the clerk. This is how many names have changed in the rolls. They're not doing it. The state is doing it. Okay. So in other words, you're out of local control. That's a big deal. If somebody else is manipulating your election, that's an important thing. The next thing that this graph shows, which is why I brought it up quickly here, is because the number of people who voted, say, in the 2020 election who are no longer in your rolls is huge. In Polk County, for example, almost 20% of the people who voted in 2020 are no longer in the rolls. So what's happening is they aren't just churning the names, they're removing the voters who actually voted. So why am I bringing this up? Because I'm kind of discussing strategy in general. You've got a statewide petition to get rid of the mail-in, and you can show that the voter rolls are filthy, and that's because of the Judicial Watch lawsuit, not to mention what I've been talking about. You can show that you're not under local control of your rolls either. And so because of that, your voter rolls are filthy. Well, let's take back local control of our voter rolls. Okay, that would be a huge impetus in your movement. And then but then guess what? That actually supports your other referendum, your petition, because then you can say, look, guys, look how crappy our voter rolls are. And we're sending ballots to all of them. We can't do that anymore. We can't do mail-in balloting. We got to stop that. So in other words, the issues support each other. They exaggerate they support each other, but My issue, the voter roll issue, gives you something for the local people to focus on. It's not merely just collecting signatures for a statewide vote, which you're probably right, you're going to lose anyway, because you're going to try to fix elections with broken elections. The last thing you want to do is have everybody do all this work, have a petition, it fail, and then everybody thinks we just wasted our time. In chess, you play out the scenarios. Okay, what if you win, but you don't have the local support? Then you still lose long term. So I really think that the right way to do this is for you to emphasize both local control of the rolls and get rid of the mail-in balloting. Does it kind of make sense what I'm saying? In other words, those issues amplify one another. That's the word I was looking for a minute ago. They amplify each other, but they give you the grist to build the local movement, because you're not going to win without a local movement. You got to have the local stuff. So anyway, that's what I would show you. And just to show that, another thing, this is a graph I've been going around and showing everybody. This is for your whole state of Oregon. 1960 to 2024 across the bottom here. And every 2 years, I've shown you this red curve is the turnout in each one of your general elections. And you can just see your turnouts over the years. I'll come back to that in a minute. This top curve, this blue curve, this is how many voting age people you have in your state. Okay. And you notice back in 1960, you had about 1.3 million people that were voting age in your state. And now in 2024, you're up to around 3 million voting age people in your state. Well, this middle curve, this black curve, shows you how many people were in your voter rolls for each of those elections. And you notice something very interesting happened right here at 2013. Your voter rolls suddenly shot up, and it's actually past your population now. And that's because your state started automatically registering people to vote all over your state. And I talked about this. If you haven't seen my Coos, let me just bring that up before I forget. This is super important. Let's see, bring that up right. You need to know where to go. I'll tell you where to go. I've got a Rumble channel and a YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I gave a 30-minute presentation in Coos County at the county supervisor's requests. It was awesome. We had a 3-hour debate. Justin Grimmer came up from Stanford arguing that no, everything's peachy in Oregon. And I said, no, everything's not so good. We have a long debate. You go to my YouTube channel and watch that 30 minutes. That way I don't have to repeat it right now. But basically I go over all the data in your state and I show that you have horrible rolls. They're not under your local control. Anyway, just gave you those links. And I've put that testimony up there for Coos County as well as Polk County stuff. Now, let me see here. Let me bring that up. Go back to where I was. All right. So I showed you this graph, and I discussed that graphic at length in my Coos County presentation. But what I want you to notice about this also is that if I just compare the population trend to the voter rolls, about 650,000, let's say round numbers, 2/3 of a million round numbers of the people in your voter rolls don't belong there. Your voter rolls have been inflated. And so for Judicial Watch to come out and sue you, they're right on target. And they're going to win, by the way. They have not yet lost one of those lawsuits. Your voter rolls are filthy. Okay. And so that's a big deal. And that will add impetus to your movement, because you can say, look, we don't want to do mail-in voting anymore. Why? Our voter rolls are so filthy and we're mailing ballots to all those people. That's a bad idea. Okay. All right.
Like that.
Now, this is the number of people who are registered to vote in every one of your counties up through 2022. And it's hard to, you can see the big counties, but it's hard to see the small counties on this kind of a graph. So what I'm going to do is I normalize it so you can see all the counties at the same time as a percentage. In other words, there are no counties that are an exception to this. And what always happens when I go around to counties, the first time I'll come to a county, say in Oregon, and this happened to me when I was in Polk too, is the leader's going to be and they say, oh no, Dr. Frank, we don't have any problem here. We like our people. We have people we trust. No, It's not about that. As soon as you say that, you've proven to me you don't understand the problem in your state, because the problem is that it's centrally controlled. The local people, you might love them, but they're not in control of what's going on. And so this graph it's over from 1980 to present. It shows you the number of people in the voter rolls in every county, or at least the shape, because I normalized it so you can see the small ones too. Notice that every single county started shooting up right after 2014. That's when your state started automatically registering people to vote. So that's not your each individual county election official adding people to the voter rolls. That's the state doing that to you. So that's the kind of evidence we can use. I've also downloaded month by month back to 2014 the number of people in your voter rolls in every single county in your state and analyze that for you. And you can see that right before the 2016 election, all of the counties surge about the same proportional amount. Isn't it interesting that your state flooded the voter rolls with a whole bunch of voters in every county? That's not clerks doing that. That's the state doing that. Because what it does is it fills your voter rolls with a bunch of people who are not real voters, and that allows you to stuff ballots so you can manipulate any election you want to manipulate that way. So anyway, I could go on and on about that. The point that I always like to make people is they think, well, gee, Dr. Frank, the machines, we got to get rid of the machines because they're flipping the ballots. That's not usually what's happening. Usually they're stuffing ballots, and you guys are a prime candidate. Everybody's seen this graph before where, from the 2020 election, right at 11 o'clock at night, suddenly the number of ballots surged for Biden in Michigan. Well, that's not flipping ballots with machines. That's stuffing ballots. That's adding ballots. And people need to understand it's not ballot flipping, it's ballot injection. How do you inject ballots? You got to have voters to assign ballots to. That's why they fill the voter rolls with all these names that are not real voters, because then every one of those is a ballot you can stuff. And then your Oregon officials may say to you, "Oh, but Dr. Frank, we use signature verification to confirm that every ballot is good." Oh yeah, well, I just came from Missouri. This is a wonderful example, and we were studying the voter rolls, and we found this lady who was registered to vote. Her name isn't really Felicia Jones. This is just an example, and she had applied for an absentee ballot in 2020 and voted. Well, we looked at her voting record. She was registered in 1964. And never voted, ever, okay? Except by absentee in 2020. So we got a copy of her absentee ballot application, and it's got a signature on it. And then we got a copy of her registration card from 1964. And when we compared the signatures on both of those, they were a perfect match, pixel for pixel. So when people say, "Oh, we use signature verification," no, you use Eric as well. You've given away all the signatures for every one of your voters to a non-government organization. So not only are your rolls full of a bunch of people who aren't real voters, you've given away all the signatures for all those people too. So anybody who wants to cheat just uses those signatures on your ballots. It's a very straightforward matter to steal your elections in your state, especially because they're voting by mail. So you can see these two issues, they go hand in hand with each other. And so I like your idea of a petition, but it shouldn't be alone. The way to build it is with the discussion of the voter rolls, especially since you got Judicial Watch suing you guys for having some of the worst rolls in the country. In other words, the issues compound with each other. They'll strengthen your movement. So
that's exactly right. We got Jonkis is the counsel for the state of Oregon for Judicial Watch on this lawsuit. He's also a co-petitioner with this petition, and I think that the two strengthen each other. You're exactly right. It's very, very powerful.
And Jonkis, by the way, I know him well. We work together in Washington County. He's a good guy. You're lucky to have him on the lawsuit. I didn't know that. That's on the petition. That's new for me. I'm delighted to hear that. Now, when I was in Polk County, had a voice. Stephen, for Christmas a couple years ago, gave me some really nice coasters. I got them right over here. I see them all the time. Thanks for that. But this is an example of the kind of things you're going to be needing to do at the local level. This is Polk County. I was there earlier this year, and you need to start having a presence at your local commissioner meetings in your counties. Every county needs to start, you need to form a nucleus of a team. So it's not just a statewide team. You need to have like platoons in this war. You need a platoon in every county that is organizing the county movement, because you don't win from the top down, you win from the bottom up. As you begin to gain momentum statewide, if you're also gaining momentum countywide, then all the pressure you need to bear on those people in the GOP, the people in the legislature, you'll have what you need. All right, I'm just starting to ramble now. I mentioned the Coos County presentation. That's good. You can watch that. It's about 30 minutes long. It's on my my YouTube channel. The Judicial Watch lawsuit, I mentioned that. My presentation Monday night, that's, you guys can watch that. That's good. I've got a lot of coaching there, how to form a 7 steps team. I've talked a lot about, I think, across Oregon about what my 7 steps are. When I first came up with this thing, it's called 7 Steps for Taking Back Our Elections. When I first formed this thing, I thought I was, let's see here. I thought I was telling people how to fix their elections. It's called 7 Steps to Take Back Our Elections. If you want one of these, just email me and I'll send you a PDF. I thought I was teaching people how to take back their elections. What I actually was doing was gathering together what was working around the country and organized it into a set of steps. And what it was working was the people were becoming the government. Okay, so you got to take back local control of your government. That's basically what it is. You have to start being we the people. And we've been, for too long, we've been letting other people run our elections, let other people teach our children, and other people run our party, and other people run our legislatures. It's got to be us. Okay, so so I have a long talk about that on Monday night. So I don't have to necessarily reiterate that right now. But I posted it on my YouTube channel. Feel free to watch. That's about 30 minutes, that section of the talk. Well, I guess the other thing that I could talk with you about, I've already covered the dual strategy. Oh, the precinct strategy. If you want to fix your party, do you guys have precincts there? Does it work there in that state?
Yes, we do. We have counties and precincts. Absolutely.
That's the Dan Schultz thing, the precinct strategy thing. That has been very effective around the country. So that's another, maybe that's a third prong to your battle here, because this is a war, and you don't, when you're playing a chess game, you don't just have one strategy, you're playing multiple contingencies. Maybe I would include, if I were you, the precinct strategy as well. It's precinctstrategy.com, Dan Schultz. Good guy. Let me just see if I've got a slide for that. I'll bring that up real quick.
He's also on X. Everyone should follow him. I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay, good. So you've got that covered for me. I appreciate that. Okay. Let's see. I hit the Second Amendment thing because you said such a good statement in your introduction.
I think you have a couple of questions in the chat.
All right.
Dr.
So, okay, very good. I can talk about the election that just happened and show you guys where you stand. Let me do that first before I take the questions. Just because I think that would be useful to you to talk specifically about Oregon, and then I'll be question central. Does that sound good to you guys? All right. So here is a summary of every 4 years, the general elections since 1980 up to 2024. This is the number of people who voted for the Republican candidate every 4 years. So 1980, it was something like 45 million people voted for the Republican candidate. And of course, in 2024, it's like 76 million, round numbers. Okay. You notice that that's a random thing. It's all over the place. It's not very consistent. Here are the number of people who voted for the Democrat candidate in each of those elections. And I've labeled them so you can kind of recognize them. This back here, these two are Reagan and then Bush and Dole. You can recognize them. Now, what's interesting is you notice that while the Republicans are random, the Democrats are not. They follow a trend. From 1980 to 1996, you can just see this nice, steady, increasing trend. The Republicans are all over the map. Nope, Democrats are consistent. And then there's a discontinuity, and then it continues from 2004 to present, except there are two. By the way, this discontinuity corresponds to HAVA. That's when we added electronic machines to start doing our counting. People always say, hey, Dr. Frank, can you show me what our elections looked like before machines? Yep, right there. There's a discontinuity. Okay. Why should machines change the turnout? It shouldn't. But since 2000, there are two deviations from the Democratic trend: the first term of Obama and the first term of Biden. And so you can see about 10 million more ballots than we were expecting, or anybody was expecting for the Democrat candidate. And in 2008, about 7 million more ballots than anybody was expecting. So those are the two deviations that you can see. And one of the things that you're going to hear is the Republicans are out there saying, oh, look, our strategy works so well. Yeah, we wanted to register people to vote, and we wanted to chase ballots, and et cetera, et cetera. And I did the calculations back in March, and I told everybody that is a total waste of time. That is a total hamster wheel. The most you're going to be able to get is a 3% increase in turnout. I've run all the numbers. You're not going to be able to do that. And guess what we got? A 3% turnout. Exactly what I said 6 months before the election. In other words, and why was I worried about that? Well, because the problem is, even if you increase 3%, you're up against this. The real problem isn't that you got to get more turnout. You're not going to get much more turnout. The real problem is you're up against the cheat. What saved our butt is that Kamala is a total dud. Okay. So in other words, Trump delivered the same amount. So that even with the cheat, but the Democrats didn't turn out. And I was about to show you that. The Democrats didn't turn out for Kamala. And so even with the cheat, they were not able to overcome. So that's a big deal. And basically Kamala lost 10 million ballots from her own party. And if you don't believe me, I can show you state by state. And let me just do that. And here's, I'm going to show you how I'm going to show you state by state. And I'm going to show you Oregon, so you can see this. So here's that original graph I showed you, 1980 to 2024, the number of Republican votes for the Republican candidate, in other words. I'm going to condense that. I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to push it all into a narrow grouping. So that's 12 elections, all in one narrow grouping, 1980 to 2024. The 1980 elections all the way to the left, and the 2024 is the right. Why am I doing that? Because I'm going to show the same graph for every state in America. Okay. So here is, for example, the first one here is Texas, the first set of 12 bands. Look, the number of Republican votes went up from 20 to 24 in Texas. It went up in Florida. It went down in California. It went slightly up in Pennsylvania, only about 3%, maybe 4%. Slightly up in New York. Look, it went up in New York as well. Ohio, North Carolina. See, so you can see state by state, you can see. And I've posted all these graphs on my social media, so you're welcome to them, welcome to use them. But let's get to Oregon. Where are you, Oregon? These are listed in order of size. I guess you aren't very big. Let's get down to you guys. Did I miss you? Where's Oregon?
We were there a second ago.
The middle spot,
Did I zoom by?
right
There you
there.
go.
The
There it
island.
is.
Boom.
Okay. So whatever you did in Oregon, you lost Republican votes. Whatever strategy you used, you failed. You got fewer votes for Trump in 2024 than you got in 2020. Okay. You had more. Look at all the other, most states had more. You had fewer. That's not percentage versus Democrats. That's you turned out fewer votes for Trump in 2024 than you did in 2020. That is a fact. Okay. That's you, whatever strategy you used. And I bet your GOP was out there telling you to harvest ballots. And I bet you they were out there telling you to call people who hadn't voted and register voters. I bet that's what they were telling. Well, guess what? That's a failed strategy. There's the evidence right there. Okay. Now we can do the same thing with the Democrats. The Democrats also failed. Here you are, Oregon. They failed to turn out their voters as well. So you, as a state, had fewer people turn out in the 2024 election than in the 2020 election. But you never hear about that. They always just talk about the margins and the percentages. These are the raw numbers. Your turnout went down in the 20. So whatever strategy you used was not a good strategy. So your state is saying, oh, we like mail-in voting because that increases the turnout. Well, it didn't this time. Okay, you had a decreased turnout. But anyway, that's just. I'm going to move on now. What to help you understand? I'm going to change. I'm going to now, instead of showing the absolute numbers, I'm going to show the ratio of Republicans to Democrat who voted. So, for example, and these are in alphabetical order now, because since they're ratios, you can be all on the same scale. So, for example, here for Alabama for the 12 elections, you notice that the Republican ratio is going up. The number of people who vote for the Republican candidate versus the number of people who vote for the Democrat candidate is going up. So, guess what? Alabama's becoming more red. Okay, Alaska, less red. Arizona, less red. Arkansas, more red. California, less red. Colorado, you see where this is? In other words, you can actually see how a state is doing. Florida is becoming less red. Okay, you can actually see Idaho is becoming less red, even though it's a big margin. The ratio here, the ratio of 1 would be if it was even number of turnouts. So even though Idaho turns out big for Trump, they're headed down. So that's alarming. Let's see if we can get to Oregon here. It comes after N, so it'll be the next slide. Here we go. There you go, Oregon. Here's your trend. Yes, you're becoming less Republican. Okay, and you're way below the even line. So your trend is not good either. So not only did your Republican Party not turn out your ballots, but you're doing less well versus the Democrats. And even though their turnout went down, they still did better than you. So as a party, your party is not performing as well as the Oregon Party, the Democrat Party. That's just a fact. And this bodes ill for our country, by the way. So I want you in Oregon to think not just at the county level, at the state level, but nationally. We're in a national war. You guys can be the epicenter of a movement. If you can get rid of the mail-in balloting, there are a lot of other states are trying to move towards that. If you can say, look, we tried it, it's a disaster, we got rid of it, you can actually be a catalyst for around the country. So I like your strategy. I brought out the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states most at risk. Remember in 2016, Trump won, but he had all 3 houses, but he lost all 3 branches, but he lost the House in midterm. And we're going to have the same thing happen again in this time, I think. We're in trouble. So anything we can do at the local level to fix this is important. I would say I've already hit these talking points pretty well. I think I've hit that pretty well. So I would say that our elections now nationally are less secure than they were in 2020 as well. I don't think we've made good progress. So I would see this as your movement in Oregon as a step forward, making things more secure. Okay, I needed to show you that. I think your own data from Oregon, I think is good for you to see. I'll go ahead and stop that, and then I'll take some questions because it sounded like you had some questions.
I got a question. I'm going to move you to gallery. I always like talking when I can see everybody, so maybe you do too.
That's exactly what I just did. I stopped sharing and moved to gallery.
Perfect. So I got a question about. There was a question by Angela here in the chat, and she asked about data on basically the fake voters, like how many, not voters, but fake. Fake voters. How many? What do you have any idea what the number is in Oregon of like a estimate of the fake?
40%.
You think 40% of the
people in your roles do not belong there?
There you go. 40% to answer your question. That's a great question. My other one, that was for Angela Peterson. My question is about the ERIC system. The ERIC system is taking all the data from the DMVs, right? Or the signatures and the images and all that stuff.
Yes.
Who is behind the ERIC system? I've heard rumors that George Soros is a financier of that platform. What do you know about that?
I know a lot about it. It was started by Soros money and a Soros group, and it was sold as a way for people to clean their voter rolls. And in other words, how do you know in Oregon who has left your state and is now voting in California? Well, California and Oregon would need to work together and compare voter rolls to find that out. And so it was sold to all the states as a way to say, hey, we'll help you clean your voter rolls. And you give us all your voter rolls, you give us all your DMV information, we'll put it all in one big batch, and we'll help you clean your voter rolls. Well, it turns out that the states who have Eric are actually the dirtiest in the country, because instead of them coming in and saying, oh, you need to remove these people from the rolls, what they've been doing is going in and saying, oh, by the way, here are 100 new Democrats that moved into your county and they're not registered yet. You ought to get them registered. So what happened over the last year is about a dozen states have pulled out of Eric. You're actually paying for the privilege of giving them the information so they can steal your elections and dirty up your rolls. So 12 states have gotten out of Eric in the last year, and you should join them. You should get the heck out of Dodge. That is a horrible system. All your basic, I mean, think about it. If your state government and the state and California state government were working together on cleaning the voter rolls, you would have the legal right to FOIA the records of how they were doing that and what they were accomplishing. But Eric is a non-government organization. It's an NGO. You don't even get to look behind the curtain and see what they're doing. And you've given them all of your voter roll information, and you've given them all your Department of Motor Vehicle information, including all the signatures, including all the back signatures. You've given to an NGO all the information that they need to steal the elections. It's a horrible situation. Get the heck out of that one. Long answer.
Wonderful. Yeah. Someone else had a question?
Yeah, Amanda Sapp had a question earlier on the slide deck that you were presenting. She said, quick question, back on that topic of voter churn, am I interpreting it correctly that voter churn, the blue column, includes both new names and old outdated names that haven't been removed?
Let me bring that back up again. I've got a really good slide for that. And it'll clarify, it makes it clear. Let me just bring that sucker up. There it is. Okay. Okay. Almost there. We've got to share here because I got out of presenter mode. Share. There it is. Share. Okay. Here's the slide you want to see right here. Can you see that?
Yes.
So notice what happens. You have 100 people in, have 100 people in a county, 10 people move out, 10 people move in. That's 20 changes out of 100. We call that a 20% churn. That doesn't mean people actually moved in or moved out. That's how many changes there are to the rolls. And I'm not talking about just like somebody changed their name or their address. No, they've been removed and added. That's how many additions and removals to the rolls. So that's what churn is. And the churn is like I was showing here in this example. I didn't mean to go to the next slide, but I guess I did. This is for Nebraska. I've done every single county in the state of Nebraska. And the churn in every county is around 33% on average. That's every county, urban, rural, big, small, medium, doesn't matter. They all churn the same amount, and they've removed about 12 or 13% of the people who voted in the 2020 election from every county. People move that consistently from every county, big, small, doesn't matter. No, that's preposterous. So the graph I showed you for Oregon, let me bring that back up again just so you can see it. The blue bar is how many names have changed in the rolls, how many have been added and how many have been removed. So you could say after 3 years, if let's say here at Clackamas it changed 40%, that 1 in 5 of the people were removed and a new 1 in 5 were put in. So that's a total change of 40%.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Frank. We got another question from Sarah Marie. She said,
I won't kill my presentation this time.
She said, would in-person voting mostly take care of the dirty voter rolls?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, it would, because if a person shows up, I mean, to cheat, they have to have a phony ID or, it gets tricky to cheat in person.
It gets really tricky because this is the thing that if the voter rolls aren't cleaned up by going to in person,
Hey guys, I had a question real quick. Can I just say something?
Where is he? We gotta kick him out.
You fucking stupid niggers. All your accounts are being
fucking
haters.
All your fucking haters.
How can I be homophobic? I'm trying to see my tongue, even my dick is gay.
I'm gonna be homophobic and my bitch is gay.
Now I'm unmuting.
Yeah, they took your screen. That's the craziest thing. How do I wow.
I'm not still here?
They're here somehow. I try to find out who it is so we can kick them out. They're putting stuff.
No, they keep disappearing. They're using something to hack into it. It was a Melissa something that was doing it and was able to unmute every time they were muted. So I don't know. It's being hacked into, but I don't see them on here anymore.
No, they're posting in the chat right now.
It should tell you who it is so you can get rid of them.
It's saying Dr. Frank. It's you.
Oh, well, they put my name. So
yeah.
Oh, I see the other Dr. Frank. Yeah, I see him there.
Where is he?
Although that might be my share.
No, Dr. Frank is co-host. Let's find another one. Hold on. Let me go down to see. Yep, I found him. All right, fixed it.
I'm here. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. So everyone, this has happened before with Free Oregon. I can't, there's another one because this screen, let's do stop share. Hold on. How do we stop share?
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, I just stopped sharing.
Okay, perfect. So all right. This has happened before with Free Oregon. And what this means is we're right over target. That's all that
baby,
means.
You're right.
We're right exactly
baby.
over the fucking target. And so that's exactly what happens when you're over the target. You get attacked, you get hacked, you get threats. I've been doing this since 2020. This is a sign that, to me, makes the hair on my neck stand up in a good way. It means that when Tobias Reed, the Secretary of State-elect, puts out a petition that is going to protect vote by mail in Oregon, and he puts it out the same day the ORP trolls our accounts on X to say, wow, this isn't a really good idea. That's no coincidence. It's no coincidence. We are right over target. We are right over target. And when we're right over target, you keep firing. You keep firing, and you keep firing, and you keep firing. You do not get scared. You do not back down. We fought Steve Jonkis. The very first civil rights case came from Free Oregon. The very first one. Steve and I have been in the foxhole together since 2021, early. Janet Bailey. Oh my God, there's so many people on this call that actually stood in front of Antifa in downtown Portland and was attacked and beat and spit on. And we held our ground. That was before it was cool. And we held our ground, and we were called Proud Boys, and we were called racists, and we were called homophobes, and we held our ground. And that's why we're here today. That's why we can take off so fast today, because the infrastructure is there. We have it.
Boom. That's the point I was making earlier.
That's right.
If you win a battle and you don't have the infrastructure, you haven't really won anything. The war is still in front of you. You got to be building the infrastructure as they go.
We got it. So
now the question
Did we
was
get
that James
everything
White
out
has a
of the
question.
chat, you guys? I think I got everything, but if you let me know if we're missing any bad stuff, I'll keep scrolling through.
thank you, Michaela. Junkus, you're muted. I'm going to unmute you. I just said ask to unmute. There we go.
Yeah. So, Dr. Frank, I had a couple points on your trends for on your ratios.
Yes.
Those are still counting the fake voters, right? I mean, you don't have any way of separating out the fake voters.
Well, I wouldn't say I don't have any way. I just haven't yet. Those numbers are just the nationally reported numbers for every state. And
right.
And we're just now starting to gather all the voter rolls. By the way, I should say that to you guys now. This is by the way, this is my daughter Nellie. Say hi, everybody.
Hi. Thanks for coming.
I was going, Dad.
What's that?
I was going, just stay longer.
All right. She told me that the owls were growling in her tummy. That's from, it's so when I'm done, we're gonna get her some pasta or something. All right.
Love it.
That's from Winnie the Pooh, right? Remember the owls are growling?
Yeah.
So Steve, oh yes, I remember what I was gonna say. So my daughter distracted me. You got to get a copy of your voter rolls as soon as they are available. Whoever voted in your election, go to your county official and say, I want a list of everybody who voted. And that's available the minute your election is certified. A list of everybody who voted. And there's a reason, because it's going to change. And if you don't capture it now, you lose it. And it'll probably already not reconcile. And that'll play into this as well, because you watch. Let's say that today you go to your clerk and say, give me a list of everybody who voted in the voter rolls. They give you a list. Let's say it has 1,000 names in it. And then you go and check the Secretary of State website and it says 1,050 people voted. They're not going to agree. And so you go back to your clerk and you say, hey, I asked you for a list. You gave me a list that has 1,000 names, but you told the Secretary of State there were 1,050 names. Who are the other 50 people? We want the whole list. And what it does is it exposes the fact that your own clerk doesn't know who voted in their own election. It's a big deal. So get that list as soon as you can. Back to you, Stephen. You were asking a question. I answered it, but then I gave you another answer.
In our Judicial Watch lawsuit, the significance there was that there are so many counties that did not remove any voters, according to national records, because I think they're talking about sending out a postcard, and after a voter doesn't vote for 2 elections, and when they don't get that postcard back, they put them inactive. And I'm not exactly sure of the process.
You and I need to spend some time on that, Stephen, because I would never say, and I saw that brief put out by the Judicial Watch thing, that they said that there were several counties who never removed anybody. Whoa, I would watch out for that one.
They say under section 8D1B. So that's the one section where you remove voters because they haven't voted and then they haven't responded to a card.
Right. Well, the law is, yes, you and I should have a longer discussion on that. But the way it works is it says if NVRA and HAVA, it's kind of a mix, says if you've missed 2 federal elections, they don't have to remove you from the rolls. They have to send you a postcard. And then if you don't reply to the postcard, that doesn't mean they remove you. That means they put you on inactive status. But that doesn't mean but they don't have to remove you immediately either. So there's this process in there. But it's easy to show. And I've got voter rolls. I could show you guys a copy right now. Simple ways to prove that your voter rolls are filthy and that there are people who have missed multiple elections who are still considered active and in the rolls. That I would definitely agree with Judicial Watch, but I would be very careful how you present that, because you're not technically correct if you say that they haven't removed anybody. They have. But what they haven't done properly is put people inactive who've missed elections. But anyway, you and I should probably have a chat, and I can show, because am I set up to analyze Oregon right now?
Okay, good. I wanted to make a point about the voting records of our legislators.
Oh yeah.
So I think that information might be skewed by the fact that we had a long walkout in order to prevent a quorum those years. Because I see, for example, someone who I consider to be a pretty good representative didn't vote on a number of important votes that was tracked on that. And that's because that walkout scenario, I believe, or could be affected by that walkout scenario.
Oh, I'm bringing those data up right now. So let me just tell you. Let's see. Oregon. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just processing your question. You remember I said that there were 4 legislators who did really well. One was Kimberly Wallen. Another was Eric Reschel, Christine Goodwin, Daniel Bonham, Dennis Linthicum. Those were the top ones in the state.
Yeah.
Anybody else you interested in?
Thatcher. Thatcher was, I think, at 50%.
50.
Yeah.
That's not very good.
No, and that's because she didn't vote on a number of important votes, I think, is what they're calculating in that.
I got you. So what you're saying is it's not necessarily the way they're tabulating it isn't necessarily they voted against it. They just didn't vote for it.
Right.
I'm with you. Okay. I just use their rating system to make.
I understand. I understand.
Fair enough.
The fact that we had a walkout, my point is the fact that we have a walkout might skew that somewhat.
Might have skewed it. Okay,
I don't disagree with your conclusion.
Well, you better not, Buster.
No, but the general like spirit of what you're saying, Dr. Frank, and that data is pretty consistent across the board over multiple years. We've got some very weak Republicans, even in the most reddest districts. In Southern Oregon, we have our senators and state reps that are, our own senator brought the windmill bill in Southern Oregon off Coos Bay. And we're like, look at this dude. And we found out where his money comes from, bringing Chinese money into the Republican Party. So a lot of it, by the way. And so there's a lot of corruption at the very top. And like I said earlier, it's ours to have ownership in if we take ownership in, and we have to take action. There's more of us than them. The people in the castle are always scared of the citizens. Really, that's why they don't take the foot off of your face.
The people have the power, baby.
Yeah, because we got it. If we just organized and we worked together and we understood what the teams were, we would be really, really strong. So, and we're getting there, and we're going to be there. We're going to do it right here with this. We got 2 years. We got 2 years with Congress, the Senate, and the executive branch all together to give us backup. And we also got to give them backup. We got to support each other. And so we're going to do that. Dr. Frank, thank you so much for coming today. It means so much to all of us. It means so much to me. I really wish Preacher Paul was here because he would take us out with a prayer.
I can pray.
Well, let's go. Let's go. But before we do that, right now, just in the next couple minutes, it's been really, really hard for us to contact all 170 volunteers. And we want to call every single one. And it's really, really challenging. So if you're on this right now, put your name and your county. Just type it into the chat right now. Name, county. We'll find you if you've filled out the volunteer form. We'll find you on our system, and we'll be able to start connecting you together. That's the big thing. We have to hand grenade the walls and the ceilings and all the things between us, and we have to connect. It's all about relationships. This is a spiritual war. Everybody knows this, right? This is spiritual. And it's the relationships that we have that matter absolutely the most. Because we really don't know what the future is going to bring. The West Coast could secede in 2025. We don't know that. It's possible. It's set up to do that. I've talked about it on Next. There's the West Coast State Pact. We have Gavin Newsom saying we're not going to back down, and we're the 5th largest economy in the world. We're not going to back down. That was his tweet 2 days ago. I mean, that's a threat. That's a huge threat to our nation. And so our relationships that we form right now with each other, is going to mean the difference between sometimes even possibly our own lives. It could be the difference between whether our nation stays together. We've been down this road before as a nation, and we're heading down this road right now again. And so we have to fight in the marketplace of ideas, which is politics. And ENDVBM, this petition is gonna force our opponents to have to come out to the battlefield and defend themselves. And that's the goal. That's the victory. Okay. But it's our relationships with each other that's going to make that happen. Dr. Frank, take us out. And keep typing in there. Type your name and your county. We're going to find you.
All right, I'll pray. Almighty God, thank you for this amazing opportunity to live in this amazing time in this country that covenanted with you at its inception. We pray that you'll empower each one of us to deploy the skills that you've given to each one of us to use for your aims. That way, when we win in the end, or we lose in the end, since you're responsible for the outcome, we're just giving ourselves to you. We'll give you the credit in the end. And Lord, I just pray that you'll fill us each with your Holy Spirit so that we are confident and empowered to do the right work, to know the right things to do, and have the wisdom to do the right things. And thank you for everybody that came out tonight. We just are so honored to be serving you at this time in history. And we pray all these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.